Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second hour of episode 20 of the Long Voyage. We have had, as I said in the first hour, we've had to switch sound systems or recording systems to Skype because Discord, which is the program we normally use, has been giving us an obscene amount of trouble lately. We have people who sound robotic when, to everyone else. Yeah, and it becomes unintelligible very quickly, and that obviously makes it very, very hard to take part in role-playing games. So we've had to switch to Skype. We do realize that the sound quality is probably going to drop because of this, but there isn't much we can do about it at the moment. So we do apologize for that, but hope that you're still going to stay with us. And on that note, we go back to the Scarlet Cloud.
Yay!
The self-indulgence of our protagonists.
Yes, the enormous self-indulgence of our protagonists, who, after having been dressed, are asked if they want food.
Yes.
Always.
Of course. Well, you are brought into the main room again. There aren't that many people. It is still reasonably early in the day. Which is probably also how, she had that many rooms available. But food is brought in. There is some kind of course, rice. It kind of goes without saying. But it has been fried instead of just boiled. It's been boiled and fried. There are various vegetables mixed into it. And there is a choice between what looks like beef and pork and duck.
Oh, duck. I don't think I've tried that before.
And so yeah. Anyway.
Oi!
Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh,
So and yeah, we need to obviously when we use Skype, we need to be quite careful about echoes and so on. But yes, you get fed, and considering how large you are, they make sure to give you. Well, the portions that you get are too big even for you, because they're not sure how much food you require.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
They are the size of a horse. They should eat the same as a horse.
Pretty much. So
Oh my god.
there is too much food for even for your tastes, but on the other hand, it is incredibly delicious. This is, in fact, easily at the standards of the Fat Goose in Lan One.
Ah. Well, I mean, considering Arching might be there, it's not something I'm going to necessarily make a big deal out of, but...
But he is eating quite heartily himself.
Ah. Well, I suppose to him it's just the normal fare he's used to, so... I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
That what they serve in the Fat Goose, that is.
Exactly. And Eileen is present as well, and she's obviously having a much smaller portion. But she is also eating, and again, drinks are brought out, but this time it's non-alcoholic. This time it's fruit juice.
Oh, that's
Strange.
Yes, quite. But yes.
I think Thrody lets Archon know that he needs him to help express something once they're done eating.
Yes, of course. He's more than
He's not sure he is able to convey what he wants on his own.
No, but he will be quite happy to help, so not a problem. And yes, so basically it's a very pleasant morning for all of you, or up until around noon or thereabouts, when you're finally all done with food and bath and getting dressed and whatever else. And you are at that point, obviously, you can stay here if you want, or you can go out and experience some of the city of of awful.
Mm-hmm. I mean, nice. I'll look around. I mean, we look a little bit more presentable than we did coming in, so...
Indeed. In fact, Eileen looks towards you guys and says, well, I have someone I need to go and meet. A business meeting. If you would, I mean, she clearly wants you guys to see some of the city as well, and you know, so basically she flutters her eyelashes and goes, you know, it's a big city, and I'm walking all by myself, and you know, maybe you could come along and protect me, sort of thing.
Ilva gives her a look. The look is not easy to tell what it's actually saying, but she is offering her a look. It's one of those look where you can't actually place it.
No.
Sindri is very, very happy to accompany her. He's nicely drunk and he's very well looked after. So he's very.
He's perfectly happy to go and escort her wherever.
He's in a state where he is very easily manipulated today. So.
Yes.
I think Thordy agrees as well and says, well, in that case, perhaps you can help me look for something out in town.
Oh, yes. What would that be?
Well, as you know, I do Maho.
Oh, yes.
And I was thinking you guys know of it.
Yes.
Perhaps you have burn smell nice thing to help visions.
Incense. Yes, I will bring you, and we can get incense definitely.
Yes, and he makes a bowl gesture for burning big.
Oh yes,
not small.
Something to burn it in, and lots of it.
Lots of it or wood, also.
Oh right. No problem. She takes all of those who would like to come along.
Yeah, sure.
On a walk through Kepa's streets. It is, you know, every part of it is like what you see in this picture. It is very large. It's probably about half the size of CharismaToAC, and this isn't, you know, that is a national capital. This is not.
No.
They're all, you know, all the houses are built in that sort of style. It's even the ones that are only 1 or 2 stories. They still, you know, they're painted. They look much nicer than what you're used to. Again, you know, if you compare this to Vananes, it's just, you know, that's a collection of hovels.
Mm-hmm.
I think Thordy takes the time, unless she doesn't want him to tell Ilva about the colors, because she's, you know, colorblind, but she should still be able to remember colors.
Yes.
Yeah, she can remember color.
So he's like, and that there is very, very red in not blood red, but you know, and stuff like that.
So yeah, basically he's giving her a tour de color through the streets.
Yes.
And I mean, even though she's colorblind, she can still clearly tell differences in shades. You know, they're different.
Of course.
Yeah, different shades of
but
gray.
It's still hard to say that particular shade of gray is gray.
Actually,
and that particular shade of gray is green.
Actually, she can see 50 shades of gray.
Shut up!
Don't.
Oh, that was too obvious.
Kindly leave the chat and end the recording here. There's no recovery from this. You've ruined it.
Oh, I'm so evil. Okay, it should probably be said, ladies and gentlemen of the viewing audience, this is a service announcement. Everybody here thinks that 50 Shades of Grey is little except a rape fantasy, and we do not condone it or support it, and none of us like it. It's a joke to us, and a very bad one. It's the kind of joke that you shouldn't laugh at, because, again, rape fantasy. So, onto onto something a little more savory. Pubic lice.
No. That was we got rid of all of that. That's all been gotten rid of.
Yes,
so.
it has. You've been washed and stuff, and you probably didn't have those in advance because Southlanders are cleanly people.
Exactly, as I said to when we are not savages.
Exactly, and but again, as you walk through the streets, you see shops of various kinds, plenty of merchants. This is very clearly a very wealthy city. This is rich even by any standards you could imagine. They are wealthy here. You don't see beggars in the streets. You don't.
Well, that's a nice change from the last places we've been in.
Yeah.
Those were less than well off.
Yes. So but it's also actually that's a good point, because the towns that you've been passing through, you've been told that Lord Bao does not have other settlements on his lands apart from Lanwan. He now that the bandits are taken care of, he wants to create a couple more settlements on his lands to support Lanwan as it grows. But that must mean that every town you've passed through up to this point belongs to whoever owns this city or rules this city, and they have been absolute shitholes.
They've clearly prioritized one city over anything else.
Yes, they have.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see that that prioritization has certainly paid off, because this place is opulent. And so she walks through the streets and lets you have a look, and whenever, if there's a building that you're all particularly impressed by, then she will explain what it is. So like that over there is the temple to the Sun Empress, for example, because that's the biggest temple in the city and the most glorious one. And another one is that one over there is that is actually that's a tea house, she explains, and none of you have probably got much idea what that is. Well, actually you do, because some of you had tea in Lanwan.
Yep.
And she points to another building and explains that's also a temple. This is to a deity known as or a power that they call the Dove, of all things. And despite that name, it actually looks like a fairly martial place. There are statues outside of warriors and so on. But yes, that sort of thing basically, and eventually you get to a rather large building, house, with what looks like two attached warehouses, literally built up against the actual living area. And Eileen says, "Well, this is where I'm to meet my contacts. He's one of the people who sends fabric to Lanwan. So I need to arrange with him. Would you like to come in? I'm sure he wouldn't mind. He's the kind of man who would probably like to see someone as foreign as you."
Then we can show off your good handiwork.
Yes, that's an excellent idea. And so she walks up to the door, and as she does so, it slides open. There's somebody who's basically been keeping an eye on who's arriving, so there's a servant who opens the door, and she enters. And any of you who wish to follow can do so.
Yes.
And of course, those who enter will get an immediate from the from the servant. It's like, can't be that big, it's not possible for something to be that big, and you can just see it on their faces, and the person there mouths a word. He doesn't say it out loud, but he's definitely mouthing a word.
Is it possible to tell which word it is if you do a perception or
Well, there is a skill for lip reading if you have it.
I don't think I do.
No.
Can I do it untrained?
Yes, yes you can, but then it's a minus
What would
5
that be?
to your perception.
Alright, so it's just perception then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not?
You might as well try.
That's right.
Nope. He probably said something about plums.
Oh, close! Ilva was really
Very
close.
close.
Yep.
Well,
Anybody
my
else?
hearing is too. Well, no, my sight isn't too larger. Damn it! It's only hearing.
Yeah.
It's only hearing that's actually 12.
Hold on. Computer seems to be going very slow for some reason. Perception, hearing, we said.
Yes.
Oh my.
Oh, holy smokes! Yes. No, not hearing. Sorry, perception, sight. He doesn't say anything.
All right, sorry, my apologies. Let me try it again.
No, it's
then.
fine. It's fine. You still rolled a 6. That's fine. But what is your perception? Well, that's still enough. There's no problem. You are pretty sure that the word he's mouthing is a short little word, 3 letters, oni.
Of course it is.
What he thinks we're.
He's worried that you might be such things. Yes. But he doesn't actually say anything out loud.
He wouldn't dare say that to the face of an actual Oni.
No, but not only that, but he looks frightened. I mean, this servant, he looks frightened. You're huge people, and you're very, very foreign. Even though you're dressed in the local garb, you can't pass for citizens of the Lotus Empire, whatever you do. You know?
Sure, we look just like them.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Rudy continues his usual tradition and winks at the servant.
The servant looks even, it looks like he's about to crumble from terror. But
Winks and smiles, a warm smile, I should
yes,
say.
and of course it takes a few moments, and then he realizes that Eileen is here with you, so obviously you can't be bad because she's a friend of the house or something.
Mm-hmm.
But she just, she looks to all of you and continues further into the house, where she eventually reaches a door, or it's almost like a paper screen, really. But she stops outside it and stands slightly to the side of the door and bows ever so slightly and clears her throat. She doesn't knock or anything on the woodwork or anything of the sort. She just clears her throat to make it clear that she's there, and a male voice on the other side says, enter, or something equivalent, and she opens the door and goes in, and this man is sitting inside. He's kneeling like they usually do by their tables, and he looks up at Eileen when she enters, and he smiles, and then his smile grows somewhat waxen again because he sees you guys behind her. But he is clearly courteous enough that he doesn't let that affect him. He gets up and bows to his guests, and that includes you.
I return the gesture.
Yes.
And he says, well, it is always a pleasure to see you, Eileen. I haven't seen you in years, but it is very nice to have you back in my house. You look exactly like yourself, and these friends of yours are remarkable people. Who do you speak our words? He asks and looks at you.
A little.
Yes.
Oh, remarkable. He says, please come in, sit, make yourselves as comfortable as you can. I'm sure that Eileen and I can finish our business swiftly enough. And should you have any questions, I am quite happy to help. I'm sure that there must be several things that you might like to know about the city, for instance.
Yes, many things.
Of course, but please do your business first.
Well, he smiles gratefully and looks to Eileen and takes out some he turns around and takes some papers from a very large an orderly stack of scrolls rolled up behind him, and he just seems to know exactly which ones he needs, so he picks those out and then he turns back and looks at her and says, I'm assuming that my shipments have reached you, and she smiles apologetically and says, well, most of them have, but we have had a very serious bandit problem, but these good people helped resolve that. Would you believe it? It turns out that an Inenra of all creatures was leading these horrible bandits, and he looks shocked at this news. He's that is dreadful, but are you sure that it is gone? They are difficult to kill, and he looks to you guys primarily, seeing as you were apparently involved in killing this thing.
I don't remember, actually, out of character. Did it seem like it would come back?
No, it seemed very dead when you were done with it.
Yeah.
No, we killed it.
But we were also told that it probably would come back.
Yes,
Was
but it
that
would take
in
a long time.
very long time.
Yes.
And they have that box to help them.
Yoshiko, yes.
Yes.
And he looks pleased to hear this and says, well, that is I mean, obviously you cannot be expected to pay for shipments that don't reach you, but I'm assuming that you've done business with the middlemen in the form of the merchants, the traveling merchants that reached you. And she nods and says yes, but I've also, she says, I've really improved in my craft since you saw saw me last, and then she gestures to you, all of you, and says, as you can tell, these garments are all of my make. Obviously.
Oh, so that's why she brought us along.
Well, I mean, Frody did suggest we could show off.
Yes,
her
exactly.
creation.
Frody actually suggested it.
Okay.
You know, it's posing time.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, oh, dear God.
And he looks very impressed, and he says, well, I suppose I can understand why you would need to make, you couldn't just take something that was already made out of the stack, because there wouldn't be anything that fits. And she nods and says, well, that's it exactly. So I made all of this, all of these garments to measurement, and he says, well, these are beautiful clothes. And he says, it looks to me like you are certainly ready to, well, for one thing, you need your regular supplies, but should you be interested, I would be able to also procure even finer silks and send them to Lanwan, if you're interested. And you can just tell from the look on her face that is exactly what she was hoping he would say. And she has no poker face whatsoever. and she said, well, please do, please. I would so love to work in that kind of material. It would be a pleasure to do so. And he says, well, that is, I mean, you are clearly capable of doing so. He looks at all of you, and then he says, the reason why she has not received this cloth earlier is it is prohibitively expensive. It is very, very costly. And if she bought cloth that she wasn't really skilled enough to work with yet, she would just be throwing money out on the streets. And so I have been withholding that sort of cloth until this point, but it's clear that your friend and mine is now easily skilled enough to make clothing from that material.
Well, that's good. Frody gently pats her on the back because, he
Yes.
doesn't want to throw her across the room.
And that gets a raised eyebrow from this man. He looks, the patting on the shoulder is clearly not a gesture that he's really seen before. But at the same time, it's obvious what it is. So he doesn't say anything. But it's so that's one of your customs, like, and then he And then they sign some paperworks in that incredibly complicated script of theirs, and he says, well, that really does take care of that. Obviously, as usual, I need you to make a small deposit, but that is a formality, I assume. And she nods and takes out some pieces of paper, which she then hands over to him, and he counts them, and from where you're sitting it looks like they are all saying exactly the same thing. And he counts.
Oh, I'm very curious. I'm curious studying that.
And he counts them and says, yes, that is, and he gives her back 2 pieces of this paper and says that there is enough in this. No gold, no silver, nothing of the sort has changed hands, just paper.
Is that money?
Yes. You don't use paper money?
No, that would... doesn't it break?
Well, you have to be careful with it, obviously, but it's also quite safe, because, you see, he explains, the point is that the emperor, the His Imperial Majesty, is guarantor that if you take this paper money to any of his designated treasuries spread out in all the provinces, you can exchange the paper for an amount of gold or silver, which is the amount stated on the paper. So
so it's instead of carrying enormous amount of weight.
Yes.
Just stay out of the rain.
Well, keep it in a scroll case.
I don't think Thorny knows what a scroll case is.
Oh, he takes he can see them behind, and you also seen them in the office of Lord Bao. He also had scroll cases lying on the leather holsters for
Not hollow wood.
No, not hollow wood for that. Those are also quite heavy, obviously. So
That's true.
But yes, and he's anyway, now that has been taken care of, it's a long trip for a short little meeting. But I suppose once in a while it's necessary. And she nods and, well, yes, but that's why we only need to meet every few years, I guess. But it's always a pleasure to visit your home. And then he smiles and says, that's very kind of you, but your friends said that they had questions. Or did I misunderstand?
I think we had some questions.
Please ask. I shall do my best to answer.
I think it was more that he offered, but...
Well...
No, he said that if you had questions, then he would be more than happy to answer them.
Well, Ilva has a very, very burning question.
Certainly.
She looks very serious and asks, so what's the story behind the name of the city?
He does actually chuckle at that. And by the way, he has introduced himself at this point, so you know that his name is Jean Li Wei, which means that his personal name is Li Wei. That's his, he's of the Shang family. And he says, well, the story is that it goes back. This place is many years old. It's many hundreds of years old, and originally, it was not nearly as nice a place as it is today. It was it was a dump. It was made of poor buildings. There was no attempt at cleaning the streets. Everything smelled bad. Apparently, it was a dirty city. It was also much smaller than it is now, but it was a dirty city, disease-ridden, apparently. And so, people who visited it or came to it would usually say that this place is awful. And the name stuck.
Oh. I was so sure it would be an ironic name.
No,
well, at least it is now.
It was actually, well, yes, it's ironic today. But you know, his lordship, and when he says his lordship, he does so with there's a definite coldness to his voice as he says that.
It's basically the same thing as saying dog.
Well,
The dog.
well,
no enthusiasm.
Only if you don't like dogs. There is no friendliness in his voice there. And he says his lordship has not seen it necessary to change the name, nor has any earlier ruler from that particular family line. But yes, that is, and of course, I'm in that regard. He says I am referring to Lord Zung, who is the lord of these widespread lands. Powers preserve us.
I take it he's the lord of all of them, and not just this glorious city.
Oh yes, he is.
Yes, we saw quite a lot of villages.
Indeed. I am familiar with the states of many of them. I do not quite understand why it is necessary to keep people in such abject poverty. It seems to me that people who are well fed and well treated would work better.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But I am not privy to his lordship's plans, and he certainly does not confer with me on anything that has anything to do with anything except, well, commerce. And he only deals with me, he says, because the merchants of Kepa has chosen me as their representative.
Oh.
Which obviously means I quite frequently have to deal with his lordship.
Not a joyous task, I take it.
Not in the least. He is... Well, he stops himself and he says, let's just say that he and I do not see eye to eye on a great number of things.
How are lordships chosen here?
Well, they run in families.
Ah.
And fortunately, Lord Sung's son, his only son, in fact, is a better man than his father, in my opinion, and will make a better lord when it's his turn.
So you are hoping that is sooner rather than later, then?
Oh, I would never deign to wish ill upon his lordship.
Of course not.
I would not presume to say that he should fall down a flight of stairs. You know, anything of the sort would be most untoward.
I understand.
By way of explanation, he says Lord Sung is a strict man. He's also, in my opinion, too strict. He does not. He is not known for leniency, and while his chief judge is a good man, he is a decent and dutiful man, sent here by His Imperial Majesty himself. he is also obliged to listen to Lord Song whenever someone is found guilty. And this means that Lord Song pretty much determines the severity of people's punishments once it has been determined that they are in fact to be punished. So, yes, exactly.
And if he is known for being a strict man.
Indeed. I'm sure you can see the problem. I am not avert to punishing thieves and robbers and violence and so on. Obviously such things need to be punished. But you see, the imperial law is a very, very extensive thing. It's many thousands of scrolls and pages long. And nobody really can say that they know all of it. There's a lot of noise in the background right now.
Sorry, something fell off my desk.
Nobody can say that they know all of it, as far as I know anyway. It is simply too extensive. But the law usually also lets the judge determine the punishment, and obviously there are also very strict judges out there, but when judges are educated, when they are taught how to do their job, it is according to a very strict set of rules in themselves, and they are taught to be fair. So when our local judge, or chief judge, there's more than one, but the one in question, the most important one, is a man by the name of Himura Izanagi. And when he is basically obliged to hand out the punishments that Lord Song wants, fairness often goes out the window.
That is unfortunate.
It is indeed. And I am, well, so that is the reason why I am not a great admirer of his lordship. He is good for commerce, I will grant him that. But that is also pretty much all I think he's good for.
So the suffering villagers we went through, they were criminals?
No, they were not. They simply don't live in Kepa, and consequently he doesn't care much. As long as they send the amount of rice or the amount of produce in general that he demands of them.
So they are not being punished, they're simply being ignored.
They are not being punished, they are not being paid either.
You have strange ways of doing things here.
The lord of any given land, any given province, has very free hands in how he wants to run that province. I cannot, in good conscience, say that Lord Song actively mistreats the people living on his land. He doesn't. He doesn't do anything. He just demands that they hand over the amount of food that he wants. And the problem with that is that he expects and demands the same amount of food every year, no matter how the harvest has been.
I take it he's never actually been paying much attention to how that sort of thing works.
No, he hasn't, and it only takes a couple of years of lean harvests in a row, and then the peasants are going to suffer. And unfortunately, Lord Song does not demand a little from them. Out of every 10 bushels of rice, 7 are sent to the city.
That leaves little food if there's only
Yes.
10 bags in all.
Indeed. So you do understand. I'm sure you can see why I am not a man who... I am not a great supporter, as I said, of Lord Song for that reason. And you, he says with a smile, are clearly fair-minded people. I've never met your people before, obviously, so I couldn't know that in advance. But judging from your reactions, you clearly see this as unfair, the same as I do.
Well, I'm certain you could find some asshole in the Southlands who would agree that Lord Sung is the best thing ever to have happened.
Oh, yes.
But I think we have an advantage in that we are much fewer than you, and as such, our ruler has an easier time keeping track of what's going on.
Oh, so you are not numerous?
No, our land cannot sustain many people.
I should like to hear more of that at some point, he says, but right now it's not so much me asking the questions as you. I did mention that Lord Sung has a son, and he, at least, well, by all accounts, he's going to be a better man for the job than his father. And I am placing a great deal of hope in that. Unfortunately, Lord Sung could have another 20 or 25 years of life in him without too much difficulty.
And as long as things run smoothly, nothing is done from higher up, I'm guessing.
No, His Imperial Majesty would never involve himself in something like this. He has to run an entire empire and numerous wars. So, no, he would not involve himself in anything of that sort. So yes, would you, yes, the thing is, Lord Song is a military man, he says. And he never, ever wastes an opportunity to remind everyone that he is a brilliant military commander. Ever. And his son is a very skilled warrior, no doubt about it, and an outstanding soldier. But he at least seems to have his heart in the right place. So, he says, is there anything else I can help with?
Do you... This is for later, but do you have a magic quarter or market?
No, not as such, but I mean, we do have Motskai in Gepa, that goes without saying. I don't think we have many, but we have some. I mean, I assume that they get their equipment and whatever they need from somewhere, so...
I shall have a look.
Thank you. It is not a... It is not goods and wares that I myself trade in, so I'm sad to say I can't be of much assistance there.
Well, those were my questions.
Yes.
He says and looks to the others, seemingly asking if they have any questions.
Silence.
Deep silence. Doesn't seem like there is.
No, that was because I was muted. That's because I was muted. I was talking. Yeah, well, it's because of the dog. Because my very agitated dog.
Yes.
Where would we go about getting a map of the city if there is one?
I don't think there's a map as such, he says, but it is very easy to find your way around. All the streets are, but everything is straight roads. So, you should find it easy to find your way around within a day or so.
All right.
Especially since you actually speak enough of our language that you can ask for directions, because the roads are all completely straight, running through the city and so on. So it's no nooks and crannies that you need to find your way through.
Okay.
It's a general thing I've realized about this country. It's very neat.
I suppose you can say we are, yes. Although he says and smiles, the imperial capital is a lot less neat, but it's also incredibly large.
Where would one go for a good drink?
Oh, that I can be of service with. There is, well, for one thing, of course, you could go to the Scarlet Cloud, and Eileen at that point smiles and says, "Well, we live there at this point." And he actually he blushes when she says that, and he says, "Oh, I didn't know," but that is a good place to drink, and there is actually a drinking establishment. If he points towards a window on the wall, and he says, "You can see it from here." It is across the road and a little further on, and it's painted in yellow. That is also a very good place, and they have many different kinds of drink.
Excellent.
It's also, he says and smiles, a pretty good place to pick up rumors.
Ah, good.
Excellent. That is much to my liking.
Are there any special local dishes from the area?
Not. Well, he says and thinks. Really, in this entire part of the empire, the fare is pretty identical for a very long distance in all directions. It's rice and meats, often fried, not always, but often. Vegetables of various kinds that we have, green vegetables typically. We do have a form of soup which is quite strong, and incidentally, that is probably the same thing that you were served in the Fat Goose, his signature dish, which some of the Southlanders started taking bets on who could eat the strongest or the hottest of that particular dish. So you've probably already tried it, but of course he doesn't know that.
Pretty sure Ilva didn't take the hardest that was, because in her opinion, food can be spicy, it doesn't need to hurt.
Yes. But of course you're sailing with a lot of very manly men who need to prove who is the most manly, because ow!
Yeah. And immediately we have "I'm gonna make a man out of you" running in the background.
Yes.
From Mulan.
Yes. And also, of course, it was that soup in the end ended up being a case of it hurts going in and it sure as hell hurts coming out as well.
To which Ilva would have replied, "We didn't need to know that."
Yes, and so yes. Anyway, that he can answer, and he says, I don't know, of course, how long you intend to stay in Cape Town, but if you are here for a few days, he looks at Eileen as well and says, I would love to invite you and your friends to dinner. One day. As I said, it's been way too long since we've had a chance to meet, And he smiles the kind of smile. There's something there that you can't tell what is. But there is definitely something going on that only the two of them know about.
I'm missing my sense motive thing.
Yeah, well, not a skill. So.
Nope.
Mwah, 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 mwah.
And if it is what I think it is, Ilva would be completely ignorant about it anyway.
Well, you don't know if it is, obviously. But he he says that would be his. He would like to invite you all over for dinner if you have time before you leave. And Eileen, of course, at this point, realizing that this is pretty much the end of the meeting, she stands up in one fluid motion and bows to him and says, "Well, I, for one, would be most honored and pleased to accept such a gracious invitation, and I will definitely, shall we say tomorrow?" And he smiles and nods and says, "Absolutely." And he then looks at all of you and says, "If you wish to accompany my friend, then you are also definitely invited."
Yes, that would be. I am honored to accept. That's the way to say it, right?
Yes. So. Well, you guys leave?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, there was that drinking hole on right over the street, if that was where you wanted to go, or did you want to go somewhere else?
I think I'll go to the drinking hole.
Yeah, Ilva's heading there.
Okay. Well, again, as I said, they have a lot of different things there. Several kinds of rice wine, obviously. They have the local form of beer, which is different from what you're used to, but still recognizable as beer. They have barley wine as well. They have several kinds of imported drinks, clearly. Actual wine made of grapes. So yeah, they have quite a lot. Of course, the grape wine is stupidly expensive, but yes. And there are quite a lot of people here already, and the mood is quite good. And nobody here pays that much attention to when you get in because everybody's too drunk.
Excellent. I think Sindri will still focus on the rumour mill side of this establishment more than the drinking establishments.
Right. Well, there's one particular rumor that is going around. You hear this. If you listen in at the tables around you, they are individually, each of them, talking about some variety thereof. They are talking about something or someone called the Dan Sisters, and that they are making trouble again, and his lordship really ought to do something about them, and they're just stirring up trouble for no reason, and his lordship is such a good man, and why Tangbo can't get a hold of these two is it's beyond them, and that sort of thing, basically. So there are apparently these sisters that are somehow making trouble.
Right. So local criminals.
Possibly, yes.
Possibly, or I don't know, something else. Could be something completely different.
Well, do you ask around?
As best I can. Considering the language barrier is still pretty high.
The language barrier can pretty much be broken down by drinks.
Yes.
Because at some point they're going to be so silly and so dumbed down by drink that they speak in a manner that you would get anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Understandable.
And despite your strange and outlandish looks, these people are, hey, if you pay for their drinks, it doesn't matter what you look like.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so what else do I learn from this revelry then?
Well, you learn that that the two sisters in question are. Well, one of them was apparently engaged to be married to Lord Sung's son. And that for whatever reason, that engagement was broken off. But that it doesn't seem to have been either of the two young people who did the breaking off.
So this was done by...
some sort of outside influence, not one of them. Nobody knows what it was.
Interesting.
But because of that, in any case, these two sisters, well, the young woman in question, of course, is very sad and upset at this, and the general consensus is that there was actually real love involved in this. That it was, that these two girls were, that this one young woman was genuinely in love with the man, and vice versa. But the thing that most people think might be the reason is that the young woman doesn't have a drop of noble blood in her. She's a commoner.
Which causes a massive barrier to a marriage to someone like
someone for a noble apparently, but it doesn't seem like it bothered to for Jeong Sung. He didn't care. He loved the girl.
No, of course, didn't care to him, but he's not the one in charge of the city and the surrounding lands.
Exactly, so. and that's also the thing, is that after this happened, the young woman and her sister, who took up her sister's cause, basically, they made a common front here, basically, against Lord Sung, and they're, there are all kinds of rumors about them, that they have information about his lordship and his family and so on and so forth, but nobody knows anything, and they're just rumors. The thing that most people are upset about is that, the city is very prosperous and it's very, very rich. And most people don't seem to understand why the hell anybody would be in opposition to a man who ensures this much wealth for everyone.
All perspective.
Yes, of course. Understandable.
By the way, before we continue, we should take our second break. I can see we've gone slightly over time, so we need to take a break here, and we'll get back with what you have to say. So
sure.
We will take our second break here and be right back with more The Long Voyage soon.
Thank you, I need to pee. Be right back.
I hadn't actually turned off the sound yet, but now I am going to.